in a big relegation six-pointer, Luton Town beat Derby County 1-0 to keep their survival chances alive. Not a classic game, by any means, but what an enormous result for Luton Town this could be.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a terrible game of football on a terrible football pitch with the referee disrupting any sense of flow in that game. It was a poor watch, but for Luton, the magnitude of the 3 points and the feeling of belief it would give them is absolutely monumental, because I think them going 1-0 up early in the game, I think that just adds to it from their perspective, because they had to defend for the rest of it. They didn't offer much going forwards thereafter they took the lead. It didn't really have to, because Derby were very flat and very poor. But just the way they battled, the way they fought, it was a really good watch. And I think that level of performance, that sort of attitude and mentality, that can go such a long way. It really, really can.
If anyone's wondering why Justin sounds a bit Barry White-ish this morning, it's because he was so furious about the referee in this game. I was also furious about the referee, but I can't really excuse Derby's performance, because Derby were appalling. The worst performance I've seen so far under John Eustace, which is saying something, because they were pretty bad when he initially came in. I could go through every player, and I don't think any of them would get more than a 5 out of 10 tops. But they started particularly poorly, which gave Luton the chance to score a very scrappy goal, which turned out to be their only shot on target. And then they sat on it. They managed the game brilliantly, did utilise the dark arts on occasion, which the referee really didn't get a hold of whatsoever. Yeah. But I thought they battled heroically, so they deserve so much credit here. Derby did have some good chances, however, it never felt like a goal was coming. And it's a huge missed opportunity for them. But for Luton, it is a monumental result. We were saying on Thursday that even a draw wasn't really good enough for them. They had to go to Pride Park and win, and they've got it. And they're still in the bottom 3, but they're now level on points with Derby, Justin. That is massive. Yeah,
it is. And again, I just touch back to the performances, sort of the defending, the fight, the grit. I loved it. I really, really did. They didn't give much away either. I think that's a really important thing. I think Jerry Yates had a one where it felt like it could have been a moment where Martin McGuinness had to clear off the line. And it's a lesson in how you defend a 1-0 lead, and it's a lesson in how you handle that big occasion as well, because right through from the players, the staff on the sidelines, it felt a relatively calm display. The dark arts, yes, you mentioned that, but again, it's just how you defend a 1-0 lead away from home. They handled it better than Derby, and I think that's so telling going into the final 3 games of the season? 2 games? 3 games of the season, yeah. And it's disappointing for Derby, but for Luton, that's a huge shift in momentum.
Well, I was worried about them after their loss at home to Blackburn. I thought that may have been the result which took the wind out of their sails, because they had a lot of momentum built up, didn't they? And then they lost to the most out-of-form team in the division. And Luton fans seemed to lose a lot of belief after that. It made this game against Derby essentially do or die. And they showed they weren't ready to die yet. This was essentially the pinnacle, really, of the recent upturn under Matt Bloomfield, because they've shown their best form of the season over the past 7 games. They've shown a lot more fight, so much so that you do sort of ask yourself, where has this fight been for the other 35 games of the season? But the performance against Derby was heroic. And it was like the Luton of old, really, fighting for everything, working their socks off. Definitely not the same levels of quality, but working hard and fighting for it goes a long way in a relegation battle. And now, big box of cliches alert, it's 3 cup finals for them. Bristol City, Coventry, West Brom. 3 tricky games against sides with something to play for, although West Brom might not on the final day. But Justin, the Great Escape's on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I've retained some belief that they will get out of it. You are right, that Blackburn game, I think, did completely suck the life out of a lot of supporters, a lot of people following the story as well of the relegation battle. But this was a definition of a 6-pointer. If Derby win, they're safe. From my point of view, if Luton win, they've got as good a chance now as anybody else. 11 on points, as we pointed out. I wouldn't say it's 50-50, but the odds have significantly swung, I think, in Luton's favour of staying in the Championship. And, you know, we talk about great escape. Has it been a great escape? I mean, they've been in the relegation zone for a very long time, but the teams above them have given Luton a really good chance of escaping. They've left the door open, and Luton are just taking advantage of that.
I think it is a great escape because they've been in the bottom three now since near the start of January. Luton shouldn't be in the bottom three anyway, obviously, because their squad is too good for the bottom three, but this is the situation that they found themselves in, and in any other circumstances it would be considered a great escape because they looked so far gone about 10 games ago and it was looking pretty glim. So now that they've got to this position where they are level on points with safety, then that is just absolutely huge for them. Still a long way to go to actually getting it done, but God, they would have absolutely loved to be in this position. Well, I mean, before the weekend, really, wouldn't they? 10 games ago or whenever. So it's a great position they've got themselves in now. But despite this loss, Derby remain outside the bottom three. However, they would be 4 points clear now if they won here, which just compounds that disappointment even more, just in that they really had a golden opportunity here to pretty much get themselves towards Safety Island.
Yeah, you can't understate the golden opportunity. I want to ask you a question. Do you think I've been overly cynical about Derby, or do you think based on this performance there might be some semblance? No. I've tried to reiterate that Derby's form over the last 3 games prior to this Luton game has been concerning. They've dropped they dropped a lead. They conceded late. Burnley result aside, you know, a late loss to Swansea, a late loss to Portsmouth, a late equaliser to Portsmouth. Really poor for me. And that's an important thing you need to factor in, is the amount of late goals they concede. Granted, this one was different because Luton score early, but a running theme with this Derby team is they switch off, they give opposition an opportunity. And this time they did that at the start. John Eustace has sort of spoke of the team being anxious before they get in the first half. I think the approach from the team generally was quite outright pathetic. They stood off Luton in the first half. They wasted 45 minutes. So yeah, it can feel like disappointment and a missed opportunity. But I also felt tactically John Eustace got it really wrong. Really wrong. They needed an extra man in midfield, needed to get Kane Wilson further up the pitch. There was a lot wrong with that first half performance. And probably 15 minutes into the second half, that just wasn't right.
I don't disagree with you on the latter point, Justin, because I think a lot of it was down to nerves. I think Derby didn't handle the occasion as well as Luton did, and maybe John Eustace did get it wrong as well. I think saying that their form's not been as that good recently, I think is overstating it a fair bit, considering it's just 1 loss in 7.
You can look at 1 loss in 7, but you get to this stage of the season, you've got to look at it's a pre-international break and a post-international break sort of factor. So I do look at the last 2 weeks and think there's nervousness there. There is, and then you consider the fact that they lose their goalkeeper before the game.
They're in a relegation battle with a handful of games to go, but they should have beaten Portsmouth last weekend, but they got a point against Burnley, one of the few teams to get a point against Burnley. The Swansea game, yeah, fine, that was poor. They comfortably beat Preston. It's not too many negatives to hand out there, but it is a really bad result for Derby. This was such a good opportunity to really ring the death knell on 2 teams in the relegation zone with a win and really leave Cardiff with it all to do. Derby would have not been far off at all in terms of safety. I suppose the only good thing for them is that the 2 other sides down there lost, but it now means they could really do with getting something at West Brom on Monday, which is obviously not an easy thing to do. And then they've got another massive game away at Hull in a week's time. So it's crunch time for Derby. They have suffered a blow as well because the keeper Jakob Vidal Zetterstrom is out for the season now. Fortunately for them, they're still well placed, but they've chosen to do it the hard way because they're Derby County. They never do it the easy way, Justin.
No, they don't. It's painful supporting the football club because, as you point out, they never do it the easy way. I think actually probably every fan can resonate with those words about their club never doing it the easy way. But you know, the goal, Zetterstrom getting injured with a fractured eye socket, that's about unlucky as you get, because Nathaniel Mendes-Lang also fractured his eye socket 10 minutes into the game here. Eye socket, what? Who does that?
Yeah, it's infectious, mate.
Yeah, it's the new groin. But it's Derby have had their own future in their hands, and now it's slipping away. So if they go down, they can only blame themselves. Also, one thing I want to point out is the pitch as well. It's a disgrace.
Oh, yeah, the pitch.
The pitch is a disgrace, and that's holding them back, I think, as well.
When you're seeing a lot of neutrals commenting on how crap the pitch is, then that says a lot, doesn't it? It's not just Derby fans at this stage. But yeah, that results certainly leaves the relegation battle wide open with 3 games to go, and we'll talk more about that in a sec. But let's go to Bramall Lane, where Sheffield United got back to winning ways with a 2-0 win over Cardiff City, and see them to continue to keep the pressure on the top 2. A hugely significant result at both ends of the table, this one. And after 3 losses on the bounce, this was exactly what the doctor ordered for the Blades.
Yeah, a win is a win at this stage, isn't it? Those moments of quality that was shown by Sheffield United. It wasn't a vintage display, but I think you can say that about both Burnley and Leeds, where their performances weren't quite at their 100%. And it's the same with Sheffield United, but they beat the opposition that's been in front of them. They haven't done that for the past couple of weeks. That relief that their win will provide is huge.
Yeah, the win's very important for Sheffield United, isn't it? You can't understate that enough. I think, for me, this is one of those games where the result was 25% down to Sheffield United being good and 75% down to Cardiff being bad. After conceding the first goal in the 33rd minute, Cardiff had just 5 shots in the remainder of the game. So we'll get onto them a bit more in a minute, but this did not look like a team who are fighting for their lives. It looked like a team who are on the beach, just so lacklustre and unimaginative on the ball. But Sheffield United didn't really cut them open freely. The 2 goals both came from deflections, which rather fortunately fell to Sheffield United players. So I've seen them play a lot better this season, is what I'm trying to say. But as we keep saying, it's all about results at this stage, particularly when it comes to bouncing back after their poorest run of the season, ahead of their biggest game of the season, Justin.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing is Sheffield United give themselves a chance, don't they, going into that Burnley game where confidence can sort of restore itself. I mean, if you just look at how they took the first goal, for example, there was a mix of good decision-making and bad decision-making, because Gus Hamer's touch with the 1-2 was absolutely beautiful. It really, really was. And then I think it was time. Yeah, sort of 1-2, but Tyrese Campbell's decision to shoot, which also causes the deflection that then falls into Gus Hamer's path, and then he puts a shot away. Yeah, there's good decision making, there's bad decision making just in that small sequence of play, and that's pretty much summed up Sheffield United are at the moment. So, and hopefully this win, especially getting that second goal with Kiefer Moore somehow being the man with carrying the ball 30-40 yards to then get the ball across to Ben Diaz. There's a lot of confidence building there. That, again, a lot of relief that the players are going to feel that have been on the pitch and who haven't been given as much as they probably could have been given for a long time. Rob Holding came in and was brilliant as well, which is another thing. Rob Holding versus Callum Chambers in this game, Ryan.
Yeah.
How things were for Arsenal.
Yeah, fair point, yeah. Forgotten Barclaysman, just knocking around in the Championship now. It's good stuff, isn't it? But we'll talk more about the game on Monday shortly, Justin. It's a significant result at the bottom of the table as well, though, isn't it? Probably not a surprising one, because even with their form, I think everyone fancies Sheffield United to get the win here. But the showing from Cardiff wasn't exactly encouraging heading into the final 3 games. And to kind of summarise how much of a mess Cardiff are in right now, you had these interesting comments from Omar Reitzer in the week. I read all the comments from fans, a lot of them, and unfortunately, a lot of them are clueless. I feel like heading into what is a massive 3 weeks for the club's future, calling your own fans clueless is not the best tactic. I'm no PR guru, Justin, but it's just a feeling I've got.
Oh, I laugh, but I honestly, I feel for Cardiff fans. I really, really do. I sympathise with them. It just creates a divide at the club in a moment that you need the club to be together, doesn't it? The fans for a long time have been they dislike their ownership, and dislike is a very kind word, by the way. Now they've shifted their attention to Omar Reitzer, who's picking battles with the fans at a time where he needs the fans to be behind the players and the club. What's he doing? Like, give yourself a chance, man. What are you doing? The fans aren't clueless. The team that Omar Reeks are currently oversees is absolutely hopeless and lacks confidence. So, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, when you need your fans banding together to back the players for this final push, this is a pretty astonishing PR own goal, isn't it? It's the last thing Cardiff need right now, because the fans haven't been very supportive of Reitzer for a while, right? That's because the results haven't been good enough. But if the fans see you deeply care about the club, you're passionate about keeping them in the division, that might give you a bit of leniency with the results, and they'll support you nonetheless. But why would they do it after you've called them clueless? Mm-hmm. It's just ridiculously daft. He's not the only manager who'll be thinking this by any means, but you don't say it out loud. It's just one of those things that you just keep to yourself. And this is what happens when you have an inexperienced manager in charge at this stage of a season. We've spoken a lot about pressure recently. It doesn't just apply to players, it's managers too. And he's clearly letting it get to him, because an experienced manager wouldn't be making a moronic comment like this. I also saw another clip after the Sheffield United game where he was picking fights with the interviewees. It's just, what is he doing?
It's almost like, I don't want to say he wants to get sacked, but he almost wants a decision to be made for him. That's what it feels like. Like he wants out, but he's not going to resign. It's what it feels like. If Cardiff want a chance of staying in the Championship, like, move him on. I don't want to call for managers to be sacked, but there were words that Omar Reitzer said last week that genuinely left me speechless. This week, going into this week, he's picking fights with the fans and obviously with journalists. And the last thing you need when your PR's down and out is to start picking fights with the journalists, who will do a long way to not influencing fans, but it's just how it goes, isn't it, with the old PR. As I say, so if Cardiff want a chance of staying in the Championship, they need to get somebody else in. Anybody. Not Omar Reitzer, unfortunately. And again, I hate saying it because it's managers losing their jobs. No one wants to call for it, but Cardiff are going down if Omar Reitzer is in charge, unfortunately.
Sharon, we're going to Cardiff. We'll see what happens with Cardiff in these final three games. They've dropped down to a place to 23rd, but remain a point from safety. They have Oxford at home on Monday. When you've got Derby, Luton and Plymouth all facing sides chasing the playoffs that day, it is an absolute must-win game for Cardiff City. A big result for Sheffield United, though, because all eyes turn towards that huge game on Monday night when Sheffield United travel to Turf Moor to face Burnley. And we'll talk about them now, because Burnley closed in on promotion with a 2-1 win away at Watford, who were down to 9 men in this one. Watford had a player sent off in the 60th minute and then another in the 69th minute. The first was Moussa Sissoko getting 2 yellows in a minute. The second one, Ido Kiembe getting 2 yellows in 4 minutes. What on earth?
Nothing screams like on the beach, eh?
The thing is, they weren't really on the beach. Watford played pretty well in the first half of this game. But Sissoko's was so stupid, getting sent off for a collision when the ball wasn't even in play. Keep in mind, he's 35, Justin.
Yeah, he pushes Zian Fleming. This is at the halfway line, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're about to restart play, and Zian Fleming pushes Sissoko back into his own half. And then Sissoko pushes him back with a little bit more force. And just an adult human being doing that's a bit daft as well. Yeah, he's an experienced guy. He doesn't need to get involved.
Yeah, very, very stupid. But yeah, as we say, Watford actually did all right in this game. Had some very good chances, particularly in the first half. Cut Burnley open with a lot more ease than most have this season. We're doing pretty well before pressing the self-destruct button. But Burnley find a way again, Justin.
Yeah, they do. And again, it's not about performing really well at this stage. It's about getting the 3 points. And it just felt like that game from a Burnley point of view. And I think with them, just needing to get the 3 points and the pressure building as each game goes by, you can tell there is a nervousness there, because we're not seeing a Burnley team who are really, really comfortable like we have done. But at the end of the day, they're now 30 games unbeaten. They are putting away opposition. They're winning ugly, as a team should do when they're fighting for promotion. I know we can argue that it's not pretty watching Scott Parker's Burnley side, but they're now winning, as I say, as a team should be at this stage of the season, where they're just grinding for points. And when you've got that mentality, I think that's a really, really positive thing.
We should talk about that game on Monday. Scott Parker could secure promotion for Burnley with victory in that massive game against Sheffield United. And after Leeds' win against Oxford, they will also be promoted if they beat Stoke and Sheffield United fail to win this game. So you would say it's looking very good for Leeds. But this game is humongous, isn't it? It's more or less a de facto playoff final because anything but a Sheffield United win is absolutely no good for them.
Sheffield United need 3 points. They absolutely need 3 points. Burnley can get away with drawing here. If obviously just to win promotion and keep Sheffield United at arm's length, obviously if they're going for the title, they need the 3 points because Leeds aren't going to slow down. The most telling thing is Scott Parker spoke about anxiousness at Turf Moor. How's that going to impact Burnley? And you've got Chris Wilder, and he's lost his head really hard in the lead up to this game week or this weekend. How's his team going to handle the pressure of this game as well, with it being in much needed 3 points? So
yeah, well, Sheffield United have to go and do what only two sides have managed this season, and that's beat Burnley, because even a draw will leave Burnley just needing a point in their final 2 games, with their goal difference being so much better. So Sheffield United have to go for it, don't they? Got to play with no fear, take the game to them. We know Sheffield United have the talent to beat Burnley, but actually going to do it is much easier said than done. So I can't wait. It's game of the season, isn't it? Because there won't be more at stake in a game until we get to the playoffs, Justin. That's how that's the magnitude of this game right here.
Yeah, exactly. And you are right. It does feel like a bit of a playoff game because it'd be interesting to see if Sheffield United do come away with a win. What does that mean for Burnley going into the last 2 games of the season? Are they going to drop off? They've kept teams at arm's length pretty much in the entire campaign. They've got to do it again against a very good team, but a team that literally have nothing to lose going for you here. And as we saw with Watford, from a Burnley point of view, Burnley can be got at. They are showing a few weaknesses at the moment, probably more so than they have done in the previous 29 games of the season. So, yeah. Will Sheffield United exploit them? But, the cogs are turning with this one. I'm excited for it because I think a Sheffield United team who've got nothing to lose are a good Sheffield United team.
Well, our friends at SBK are offering a massive 25% boost on all bet builders with 4 or more selections for Burnley versus Sheffield United. Max stake £10 and T's and C's apply. There's also a 20% boost on all multiples with 4 or more selections across the Championship. So just a timely reminder that there's no better place to bet on the second tier than SBK this Easter weekend. T's and C's apply. 18 plus, and please do gamble responsibly. We'll have a quick look at how our preview show picks did from Thursday's show. Just in our bet builder was on Derby v Luton, and a free £2 stake for bet builders for yesterday was due to return £86. We had a bit of a disaster, really. We had Derby to win, obviously a loser. Derby under 3.5 shots on target. There were 4, so another loser. We also had Kane Wilson to be carded, which was a loser. I thought he did get carded, but maybe I'm mixing him up with someone else. And then we did have under 2.5 goals, which was a winner, but a fat load of difference that made. And our multiple, a £10 stake, was due to return £300. We didn't do very well there either. We had Derby and Millwall both to win, who both lost. We also had Burnley and Sheffield United to win, and they did win, but no luck for us there. We'll be back with our next round of picks in next Friday's preview show, brought to you by SBK. We'll have a quick break, Justin. After that, we'll have a look at the playoff race in the Championship. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast, and it's now time for us to reveal the winner of our latest edition of Jameson's Weekend Hero, because every single week we ask you to nominate a fellow Championship fan that you believe deserves recognition. Now, it could be someone who drove you to a recent away day, it could be a friend or a relative who got you into supporting your club in the first place. Whatever it is, we want to find out. So to nominate your Jameson Weekend Hero from this weekend, send us a voice note right now on WhatsApp explaining your nomination. The number is in the show notes, and of course, if we pick you, you'll win a bottle of Jameson to share with your winner. So on to this weekend's hero, who is from Lucas, and he wanted to nominate Leon.
Hi, my name's Lucas, and for this week's nomination, I'd like to nominate my friend Leon. Leon and I are both Swansea fans, with Leon living in Worcester and myself living in Hereford. And despite the distance, Leon will attend to every game he can, home and away, and since COVID has missed a handful of games, and that's only been down to transport problems. I first met Leon away at Reading, and since then he's picked me up through Hereford to get down to Swansea, which is a slight diversion. He's also picked me up in Hereford to take me up to Leeds, which is a big diversion, and we've gone for countless drinks in Swansea, Hereford and Worcester. We've also got a common interest in going to Wales away, which we've been to probably 10 countries together, just recently getting back from Macedonia. And what you find is that he'd have to drive to Stansted, Gatwick or Luton, for an example, and he does it without fuss.
There we go, Justin. That is absolutely superb. A brilliant Welsh accent, by the way. Absolutely love that. But Leon, we've had similar weekend heroes this season, but someone who is willing to drive the miles and miles. I mean, I tell you what, Worcester to Swansea, that's a bit of a trek. So Leon is a proper weekend hero, and especially when it comes to helping Lucas get to games as well.
Yeah, measure of a friend is just going out of their way to pick them up. Would you do that for me, Ryan? I think that's the question.
No.
There you go. And that's why there's a weekend hero here, and you aren't. That's why I'd never nominate you. So props there, because as I say, driving that far, that distance, doing it with most games, driving to Stansted, by the way, it's just one of the most horrific drives a human being could take.
Yeah, especially for bloody Worcester.
Honestly, yeah, you can't understand the magnitude of that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, love that they go to Wales away games as well. I really wish I had the patriotism to go to England games away, but I just don't, Justin.
No, that's fair. And again, that's just more of a measure of you, isn't it? You won't pick me up. You won't follow your country. You're just a terrible human being.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm glad we finally got there with that. But let's raise a glass of Jameson ginger and lime to Leon, who is this weekend's Jameson weekend hero. Just now going to have a swig to honour this occasion. Superb as always. And to nominate your Jameson weekend hero, send us a voice note right now on WhatsApp. Just needs to be about a minute long. The number is in the show notes, and you could be next week's winner, receiving a bottle of delicious Jameson. You must be over 18 to enter. UK only, and T's and C's apply. Let's have a look at some of the other action from across Good Friday then, Justin. And we'll go to Bristol City, who have once again boosted their chances of securing a playoff place after coming from a goal down to beat 10-man Sunderland 2-1. Two brilliant goals in this one. Rob Dickey with a beauty from 25 yards out, an astonishingly elegant goal from a centre-half. But then Eleizer Mayenda with a sensational solo goal for Sunderland, dribbling from well inside his own half. Unbelievable from him, Justin. Yeah,
it's such a shame that this goal wasn't on a winning team, simply because it may be forgotten outside of the Championship, but I genuinely, got to throw this out there, this might be my top 10 Championship goals ever.
Ever? Wow, okay.
Yes. It genuinely made me sit upright on my sofa. It takes a lot to do that. But how often do we see goals, individual goals like this, dribbling with intent from the edge of your own area, you beating players at the end of your run, you put your shot away surrounded by players? It's so good. So I do feel for Mayenda, who hadn't scored in 6 prior to this as well, by the way. And it was brilliant.
Wow. Big praise. Very big praise.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was brilliant. I really did.
I can bloody tell. And it was an astonishing goal, and I guess this is a pretty good example of what Mayenda can do. Every so often you see what he can do. We just need to see it on a more regular basis, but it was an unbelievable moment of genius from him. I'm not sure I'd go top 10 goals in Championship history.
I don't think we see individual runs like this very often in the league, especially not with the end product that Mayenda had here with the composure. Like, he was surrounded by 3 players. He beat a couple of players to get into the shooting position. After running 90 yards, that's a difficult thing to do. You're going to be gassed out at the end of that. So to have the composure he had was just remarkable, I think. It really was.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny that it was remarkable. I remember Iliman Ndiaye scoring a very similar goal for Sheffield United against Fulham a few years ago. That was a pretty remarkable goal as well. But yeah, this one was very remarkable in its own right. But this game was potentially a preview of the playoff semi-finals in 3 weeks' time, because obviously Bristol City sat 5th, Sunderland sat 4th. Always a bit of an uphill struggle for Sunderland because they had Trey Hume sent off after just 7 minutes. Maybe not giving it enough justice by saying it was a bit of an uphill struggle, because having just 10 men for 83 minutes is usually quite difficult. But nonetheless, it's another cracking result for Liam Manning's boys, and it takes them one step closer to the playoffs, Justin.
Yeah, it was a really important 3 points as well. And I think every test they faced, and I was a little bit sceptical of Bristol City maintaining that run and drive to remain in the top six. But I think full credit to Liam Manning and the way he's motivated his players. I thought goals would be a problem, but the goals are so spread out and shared amongst the group that having just one goal scorer they've not been reliant on. I think that's the case for a lot of teams in the Championship this season. So maybe it's just sort of a weird anomaly year where we're not seeing strikers really take the ball by the horns, if you like. But yeah, they're responding with every test that they get given. This was going to be a difficult game. Okay, going down to 10 men early, it makes it a little bit more tricky for Bristol City. But they had a game a couple of weeks ago where opposition goes down to 10, and Bristol City don't quite take responsibility in that game. So they do that here, and they do it, I wouldn't say with ease, but they respond as well going to goal down. There's a lot of tests they've been shown, and they're overcoming them, and I think that's why they're more than deserving of their place in the top six as they keep driving.
Yeah, well, you'd expect them to get the win when the opposition are down to 10 men for over 80 minutes. And it was, unsurprisingly, one-way traffic for a lot of this one, with Sunderland being down to 10 men for so long. But it took Bristol City a long time to go ahead, and they got the job done, ultimately. That's all they would have wanted before the game, and it ended up being a great Friday for Bristol City, because Middlesbrough are now the only team outside the top six who could realistically catch Bristol City. They're 4 points clear of them with 3 games to go. You had Millwall and West Brom both losing. So Bristol City looking very well placed all of a sudden. And it looks like it's actually happening. Liam Manning is breaking the mid-table curse.
Yeah, I think there was a tweet earlier on in the season about the Bristol City Preston game being the most mid-table game come the end of the season. But there might not be anything riding on that game anyway, so probably some semblance of truth there. But I think the achievement of finishing in the top six deserves to have a lot of praise towards it, because I think Bristol City have quietly they've not snuck into the top six, but they're all of a sudden in the top six with 7 or 8 games to go, and so it's almost caught a lot of people by surprise. I mean, you called them your dark horse earlier on in the season. They're quite a lot of people's dark horses, worth mentioning that. But to be able to direct a club who have been in mid-table obscurity for such a long time, and do so without millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds of investment, just plugging gaps here and there where it's been necessary, and also bringing in youngsters as well. Everything's been going in the right direction. And I think, the club deserve praise for sticking by their strategy. They didn't sign anyone in January. It's worth bearing that in mind. That's a really important point to make. They stuck with their strategy, and it's paying off. And Liam Manning deserves praise for guiding the club. I think Nigel Pearson deserves a fair bit of praise for stabilising it as well. Liam Manning's predecessor. So yeah, there's just a lot of positivity coming out of Ashton Gate.
The thing we have to keep in mind is, as well, at the last international break, Bristol City were heading into these final games with one of the trickiest run-ins. Yet they seem to have been completely unfazed by it. And over the last 10 games, only Burnley have won more points than them, beating Sunderland, West Brom, Norwich, Watford, drawn with Sheffield United. So if they get there, they could be heading into the playoffs as the form team, potentially, especially with Sheffield United's recent wobble and Sunderland just kind of lumbering along until May. And I think people may underestimate them heading into the playoffs. They may think, it's Bristol City, the perennial mid-tablers who have stumbled upon a playoff place for once. But with their form and the standard of teams they've been beating, they definitely shouldn't be underestimated. So Liam Manning doing an unbelievable job down at Ashton Gate. And sticking with the playoff theme, Coventry have taken a significant step towards nailing down a playoff place after a 2-0 win at home to West Brom in a top six-pointer. West Brom also had a man sent off, although Coventry were 2-0 up at the time. So not much. It's not necessarily as game-changing as the Bristol City Sunderland one. Nonetheless, that playoff dream is virtually over now for West Brom, isn't it, Justin?
It's taken an almighty swing in form to change that for West Brom. So yeah, all but over, I think, at this stage. I think I'm surprised at how flat they've been under Tony Mowbray. They haven't been as free flowing as maybe I anticipated from when he came in probably a little bit naive to think he will have an instant impact from a defensively minded team of Carlos Corberán. But I think the most key thing here is their away record under Mowbray's been really poor. Actually, they've not won away. They've not won away since November. So yeah, Mowbray doesn't deserve all of the criticism, but ultimately, for me, that's cost them a top 6 place because their form at the Hawthorns is absolutely fine. It's credible. It's good. Their away form has cost them, and I think there shouldn't be an inquest. Because obviously being in the top 6 for such a long time and then dropping out with just a few games to go, we'll probably resort to that. But the club is in a process of building. I think we need to remember that.
Yeah, well, this was the opportunity for them, wasn't it? Because how many chances will you get with just 4 games to go to face your main rival for the top 6? You'd kill to have the chance to take points off them, and they just didn't turn up. It was really their most important game of the season, but you wouldn't have guessed it from this performance. They were really, really poor. And West Brom's season has unfortunately just petered out. Inconsistency, players not playing to the levels they should, Mowbray not having the desired effect after he came in. It's just been a very disappointing end to a pretty unremarkable season for West Brom. Whether it's a massive underachievement or not, I don't really know, but it's a disappointing one, that's without a doubt. But Coventry are getting there, aren't they, Justin? It's another win closer for them to securing a top 6 place. Yeah,
absolutely. And they were brilliant here. They really were. I think Jack Redoney, scoring again, he's been magnificent this season. It's probably worth him being in the conversation for player of the season come the end of it, depending on what he ends up achieving, obviously. But this was a big test for Coventry, and they overcame it. They were aggressive in the game. They played some really nice stuff as well, and they managed West Brom going down to 10 men with relative comfortability, if you like. This is a good team that's been organised, and they're seemingly developing a nice mental edge now, which is obviously important going into the final few games, but also going into the playoffs as well. So yeah, I think Frank Lampard deserves a hell of a lot of credit because they're responding well to defeats, they're responding well to sort of, they had that period of poor performances, and then they lost a derby and they responded, and then they go again. That's what you need at this stage of the season, just to keep the edge going, and they're doing it. So yeah, good performance from Coventry, really, really positive, and going in smiling to that Monday game.
Well, this is actually only their 3rd win in 7, so they've not been in blistering form recently, but this 3rd win is absolutely huge because they needed this result for multiple reasons, not just because it's a 6-pointer against a fellow playoff chasing side. They needed some form to find again heading into the playoffs in the end of the season. But you could say it was a statement win for Coventry, really, because of how badly they needed this. Their next 2 games are away at Plymouth and Luton, and then they've got Middlesbrough at home on the final day, which could be a decider for the playoff spots. That game is looking absolutely huge potentially, isn't it? Let's talk about Borough now, because a 93rd minute penalty by Tommy Conway saw them get a late 2-1 win at home to Plymouth. I watched this game, Justin, after I got back from the Derby match and had let the red mist disappear from in front of my eyes. But Middlesbrough weren't great. Not the first time I've said that about Borough recently, despite their results. And I'm not even sure if it was a penalty for the winner. The commentators on the channel that I was looking at acted like it was a stone wall, but I wasn't sure it was at all.
I don't think it was a penalty. If you're giving penalties for that level of contact, whether he's moving at pace or not, you're never going to play football because the whistle's going to be blown every few minutes. We were talking about the Derby-Luton game being disrupted. There are a lot of fouls like that in and around the pitch where the referee was blowing up and the game never got going. Frustrating. So yeah, as I say, if you're giving penalties for that, it's poor for me. It's really poor. It's a contact sport, right? It's a contact sport, for goodness sake. It's going to be contact.
Yeah, and I'm not sure there was that much contact to begin with. And when there's as much at stake as this game had, at that stage of the game, you've got to be 100% sure, and I don't think you can be with that. It was a very, very soft penalty to be giving away in the 93rd minute. And he got a red card as well, just to really top it off. But look, we perhaps shouldn't be complaining too much, Justin, because if that penalty wasn't scored, we wouldn't have much of a playoff race right now, because Middlesbrough are virtually the last challenger standing, aren't they?
Yeah, it's true. So the referee's done second tier the old favour there, but at the end of the day, the the importance of these decisions are massive, because obviously, it could have ruled Borough out the playoffs, but it gives Plymouth a really important point in the wake of teams above them losing. I don't want to get into VAR, but you get my point. But with that, it just goes to show how much how it's been a disappointing season for Michael Carrick and Middlesbrough. I would label them a big underachiever. Again, if you're looking at the amount of money they've invested in bringing players in, I know they've sold a fair wedge as well. Fair enough. We could talk about net spend. Great. It's irrelevant in the discussion of them signing a lot of players, bolstering and improving their squad, and the players not having the desired effect. And Michael Carrick, again, underwhelming. So it's an interesting conversation to have. But look, they're still in the race for the top 6. If they miss out, I think it will be a very disappointing campaign for Borough. But they're winning games. And again, we spoke about Burnley, Sheffield United, Leeds. Don't have to win nicely. You just got to win. That's all you need to do.
We got Sheffield Wednesday away on Monday, and if I was handpicking away games right now, that would probably one that I would go for, because there seems to be a civil war happening right now at Hillsborough. They could really do with winning that one though, Middlesbrough, so they'll mathematically still be able to make the top 6 whatever happens on Monday. But Coventry will be hoping for 3 points at Plymouth, and anything but a win may see Bristol City go out of sight. So please do us a favour, Middlesbrough. The top 2 race might be over on Monday, so we need the playoff race to be interesting at the very least. Plymouth are still alive though, aren't they, Justin?
Yeah, only just. And again, it's a big old journey for Plymouth fans. 750 miles, 12-hour round trip. To see a team lose in the final minute because of a decision that shouldn't have been is rough. But they'll go again, and again, it's just that level of fight, isn't it? From Plymouth, that is just, you want that. Every team should embrace that, and it's a really nice thing. But unfortunately, quality is also really important at this level, and that's the trade-off that we've got here with Plymouth. They don't always have the quality to see games through, and we can argue why Tommy Conway was in that position to be fouled, quote unquote fouled. He got there because, as I say, Plymouth do leave openings, and that was exploited, unfortunately. But they're fighting. They're fighting Plymouth, and again, we'll know more after Monday's games.
Well, they're still alive because of Luton's win against Derby, which I said on Thursday, an extremely rare situation where a side in the bottom 3 actually wanted a fellow side in the bottom 3 to win. Although I just wonder whether that late penalty may have been a haymaker for Plymouth's survival chances, because obviously it would have been a point towards safety if they managed to hold on. But also because they remain 3 points from safety. However, with their goal difference being significantly poorer than anyone else down there, they're essentially 4 points from safety. So that extra point would have at least meant they were a win away from getting out of the bottom 3. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Now they need at least 2 results to go their way, and their remaining 3 games are Coventry, Preston and Leeds. Yes, one of those is the odd one out there, but that's how big a dropped point it could be, because now Plymouth have to get a result, more likely than not a win against one of Coventry and Leeds, as well as beating Preston. So yeah, it's they're still alive, but it's definitely fading for Plymouth. And there was an 8-goal thriller at Carrow Road as Portsmouth beat Norwich 5-3. What a good Friday treat this was, Justin.
Oh, that Easter weekend chaos we love to embrace, isn't it? It's fantastic. 8 goals at this stage of the season in a game. We don't get many 5-3s. We don't get many 5-3s from an away team, by the way. And that's scoring 5 goals away from home from Portsmouth's perspective, who have been down there at the bottom of the table, is a remarkable thing. Going to Carrow Road, scoring 5 goals again is a very difficult thing to do for an away team, and they've gone and done it. Colby Bishop getting a hat trick, Josh Murphy being absolutely phenomenal. The Murphy twins are having a right old year, and Josh Murphy, I think, is probably having the better one, I will add. And what a game it was. John Messinio deserves a hell of a lot of credit for guiding Portsmouth to safety, I think, in the most emphatic way possible.
Yeah, Thomas Tuchel, get the Murphy twins on the wings. Come on, sort it out. But the thing is, both sides missed some good chances outside of the 8 goals as well. So we probably should have had even more goals in this game. It was by no means a defensive masterclass by any means, but it was a lot of fun. A proper basketball match. It was great entertainment. Exactly what you want to see near the end of the season when you have 2 sides with not much to play for now. Great to see Bishop getting a hat-trick for Plymouth to top off what has been a rollercoaster season for him. But yeah, a really, really entertaining game. You were saying on Thursday, Justin, how you think I was being harsh with Johannes Hofthorup in my manager ranking video on YouTube. From what I'm seeing on social media, I don't think I'm getting many Norwich fans disagreeing with me on that after this. I saw Talk Norwich City calling it a serious low. But their season's officially over now. They're one of a handful of teams we're mathematically guaranteed to be seeing next season. So congrats, Norwich fans, on that. And it looks like we'll be seeing Portsmouth as well, doesn't it? They're finally just about there with this win, you'd say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. It was quite telling, actually, because John Mousinho said even at 5-2 up with 8 minutes to go, he didn't feel secure. So he's still looking over his shoulder, and I imagine that'll be the case with the league table as well. But it would take an almighty turnaround. And look at how Portsmouth attacked in this game. Yes, defending was a little bit scarce, but look at how they attacked in this game. I don't think any team below them could attack with the same pomp and swagger that Portsmouth do. I think on a case by case basis, they're a very good group. I don't think they're blistering. I don't think they have a blistering amount of quality in that team. None more so than the teams around them. But I think John Mousinho's got a very good unit. He's a very good coach, and he's clearly a very good man manager because he's getting the best out of a lot of individuals. And Matt Ritchie's having a season as well, by the way. The grand old age of 63 is incredible. It's incredible. And yeah, so for them to, I think they are steered to safety. John Mousinho won't confirm it until it's mathematically done. But come on, John, relax. You're all good, mate.
Yeah, they're not mathematically safe, as you say, but for Portsmouth to go down, you would need Luton to win at least 2 of their remaining games and have a big swinging goal difference. You would need Derby to win 2 of their remaining games and Hull to win 4 points from their remaining games. So yeah, I think they'll be all right. But what an achievement from John Mousinho to keep Portsmouth up. Yes, there is some talent there, but he's done it with one of the smallest budgets in the league and has had to deal with more injuries than nearly any other side in the league, playing some entertaining stuff along the way. And he could have been sacked earlier in the season after a tough start, but he's just kept them up with 3 games to go. And that's very, very good going from him. So yeah, a phenomenal season for Portsmouth and John Mousinho. Justin, let's do the polls. This is the part of the show where we'll give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter because we want to get their thoughts on everything to do with the Championship. So the first question we asked was this: who's been your manager of the season in the Championship? Tom Cleverley, John Eustace, Liam Manning, Gary Rowett. Notice I didn't include a certain someone in there, Justin.
Because there is a lot of unconscious bias there, Ryan. Scott Parker's my man. Just as a middle finger to you now. I like it.
No, he's not though, is he? 50% of people, get this, said Liam Manning. 25% said John Eustace. 14% said Gary Rowett. 11% said Tom Cleverley. Can Sheffield United still finish in the top 2, yes or no?
No, I think it's done.
Yeah, even if Sheffield United won on Monday, it would still take a pretty drastic swing, really, wouldn't it? Because you'd need Burnley to really do them a favour. So yeah, it would take something incredible at this stage. 84% of people said no, 16% said yes. And finally, do you like hot cross buns, yes or no?
I think they're overrated, you know.
I'm not a big raisin fan, so I've never been a fan. 64% of people said yes, 36% said no. So hot cross buns get a bit of a share from our audience, but not us on the second tier.